All right, man, peace. So, brothers, this is a story from about a month or so ago, but I just want to cover it on this channel for the purposes of helping a lot of cats, especially a lot of younger brothers, understand that when you do bad things, you're going to receive a very harsh judgment. And you cannot always expect any form of compassion or pity from society at large once you decided that you were not going to respect the rights of others. And one of the main problems that we have in the so-called black community is that they're trying to imbue within the minds, especially of young black men, the mentality of a woman. That being that you should never be held fully accountable for your actions, or that no matter what you do, you should still be treated the same, and that you should still expect the same amount of regard from society at large. And brothers, that's not realistic. For you brothers who read the scriptures, it tells us in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 21, that evil pursueth sinners, but the righteous shall be repaid with good. I'm paraphrasing. But the overall point of that verse is to help us understand that when you do wrong, you're going to be the recipient of very bad energy. Whatever you put out is what you get back. And many of the wokety wokes and the super liberal blacks, as well as their masters, these super liberal Caucasians, they tried to make a story out of this issue at one of the detention centers in Brooklyn when the incarcerated individuals in that lockup facility were without heat for a while when a major cold front hit New York. And brothers, I have news for you. That's judgment. And you have to be able to deal with your judgment like a man when you know that you've done wrong. A lot of cats out here know that they're doing wrong. You know what you deserve. If y'all here gangbanging, destroying your own people, stabbing people, raping women, molesting children, you're a mass murderer, you know what you have coming to you. And there's no disrespect. I'm not saying that people who are incarcerated should be disregarded, that they should be treated as subhuman or what have you. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you know when you're getting what you deserve. Okay? So this, to me, I'm not going to say that this was a complete non-story, because it is a human rights issue. It is a human rights issue. But it's more of a story because whenever people are incarcerated, they're capital. And a lot of people do not understand the prison industrial complex. The reason why it's called a prison industrial complex is because you basically have a free labor force. That's why they incarcerate people for life as opposed to putting them to death. That's why they try to make you believe that there's a conundrum over whether or not certain prisoners should receive a death sentence, because they're losing money. Whenever they put someone down, they're losing money. That's why they'll put a prisoner on death row for years and years before they kill them. And they'll try to act like there's a bunch of red tape. There's no real red tape. The issue is that they want to make sure that they maximize how much work, which results in money or results in profit, they can get out of that incarcerated prisoner before they put him down. That's all it's really about. But just to get back to the point, brothers, please understand that everything that we do in life has repercussions, man. It has consequences. And when you're locked up and you're not being treated well, you know why that is? Because you don't deserve to be treated well. You didn't treat your community well. You didn't treat yourself well. And that's the judgment. And whenever we do bad things, we have to deal with the judgment. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
And right now at 11, protesters calling for better living conditions at a federal jail in Brooklyn are getting help for inmates.
Let me say this very quickly. We'll have better living conditions when we stop trying to hurt one another, destroying our own people with nigger nonsense and buffoonery. Then we could live in apartments and homes that are heated and also have cooling functionalities. We can go to our refrigerator and get the food that we want out of the fridge, watch whatever TV shows that we want, while we make sure that we respect and love one another like how we're supposed to. When you go outside and you want to sell drugs to other so-called black people, when you want to make young black men join gangs to push and promote your Luciferian agenda, I have news for you. You're going to get incarcerated. You're not going to be treated well. They're going to dog you out. You're going to be forced to sustain dehumanizing processes that are going to make you feel less and less as a person. You know why? Because when you ran up behind that old lady and took her purse, or when you decided that you were going to follow somebody into their apartment building and rob them, you dehumanized them. You took away their rights. So that's how that happens. It's no disrespect, but I promise you that out of all the incarcerated individuals in this facility, 95% of them deserve to be there. So do I feel sorry for them? No, not necessarily. That's your judgment. If you were man enough to decide that you were going to hurt somebody else, you should be man enough to live through a little bit of a cold front. Get a couple extra blankets and man up.
who've gone days without heat and electricity. Good evening, I'm Dana Tyler, in for Jessica Moore tonight. For 12 hours, protesters have been demanding justice outside the Metropolitan Detention Center. And tonight, Mayor de Blasio is slamming the Federal Bureau of Prison, and he says the city is stepping in to help the prisoners. CBS 2's Lisa Rosner reports from Sunset Park.
They are human beings! They are human beings!
Extra police on hand to manage protests.
Once again, the people there are chanting, they are human beings, and they are human beings. But like all human beings, we make bad decisions. When you make bad decisions, the repercussions, the judgment, is not necessarily where you're going to expect it from. Everything is spiritual. This physical world that we live in is all masks, man. It's all facades. It's all fake. It's the spiritual world that we can't see. That's the real world. And whatever we do bad, it comes back to us. And when I say bad, I'm not talking about little mistakes here and there, you know, little decisions that we make here and there that we think are going to be for our benefit. I'm talking about terrible things that people do to get incarcerated, to get locked up. I have a very difficult time feeling sorry for people who were forced to deal with the cold for 4 or 5 days. They got assistance. They were able to get the help that they needed to warm themselves up, but they probably deserved it. That was a bit of judgment. And there were a lot of so-called activists who tried to make this into a huge deal. To me, it wasn't a huge deal.
Protesters yelling and honking outside the Metropolitan Detention Center in Sunset Park. Some of the more than 1,000 inmates responding with flickering booklights and banging on the windows. Shaquina Jones says her brother is one of them.
He texted us almost 2 weeks ago saying his body's aching.
His body's aching. Well, Shaquina, what did your brother do to get locked up? No disrespect. But what did he do to get locked up that he's in that facility and now his quote-unquote body's aching? Did he make somebody else's body ache?
We did see a city truck deliver dozens of boxes. The mayor says the Department of Emergency Services is dropping off hundreds of blankets and hand warmers. Saturday night, Mayor Bill de Blasio tweeting these pictures at a loading dock, saying that generators were also delivered for the prisoners, saying, quote, "We won't stand by while the Federal Bureau of Prisons fails them." A statement from the Bureau acknowledges the city's assistance and says the facility is working to restore power as expeditiously as possible by...
All this bureaucratic red tape is just to pass the buck and pass the blame. At the end of the day, it was judgment. Because there were probably people within that facility who are locked up who've done some very heinous things. And the Most High just wanted to give them a bit of the taste of their own medicine. Who knows who you have locked up in here? Rapists, pedophiles, serial killers? Who the hell knows?
By Monday, but there's no mention of generators or when heat will be restored.
I doubt that there are too many political prisoners and freedom fighters who are locked up here. Might be a few, who knows? If their goals are righteous, they knew what they signed up for. I'm sure that they're dealing with the lack of heat in a far better way than the actual criminals are. Criminals tend to be entitled. That's what makes them criminals in the first place. To say that you're going to rape a woman, you're saying that I'm entitled to your vagina even though you don't want to give it to me. For you to rob somebody, you're saying I'm entitled to your money even though you work hard for it and I didn't. There's definitely a direct correlation between criminality and an entitlement issue. Now, of course, we know that there are certain groups of people and demographics of people who are not given the same chances as other groups. There's no doubt about that. But brothers, let me say this, where there's a will, there's a way. That's why I focus my channel on the so-called black man. Because we have to solve our own problems. We can't look to other people to solve our issues. That's not going to necessitate us being looked at with the respect that so many woke Negroes claim they want from the other races. And as I've stated repeatedly on this channel in the past, I don't want to have to give anybody else credit for my success or for my accomplishments. I just don't. And it's really not that difficult to be a relatively upstanding person. Are there people out here who are robbing and scamming because they have no other way? Sure there are. But they're very few and far between. A lot of people start making very bad decisions very early in life. Many times it's because they're not getting proper guidance from their parents, or maybe they've just been given a very reprobate spirit by the Most High to live out and fulfill their will here on the earth. The evil or the wicked are also brought here for a purpose. It tells you that in Proverbs 16:4. But at the same time, a lot of people who end up in bad positions, it's because that's what they want to do. That's where they want to go. And then they want to make themselves out to be victims down the line. I know many brothers who lived a life of crime when they were younger and then became upstanding citizens later on in their life because they made an appropriate choice. So yes, is this captivity harsh on the so-called black man? Absolutely. But a lot of the things that we do are from our own bad decision making.
Some of them only had heat at 49 degrees, 50 degrees.
Saturday afternoon,
Put on a fucking blanket.
federal, state, and local lawmakers toured the facility where a part of it has been without power and heat throughout the past week's single-digit temps due to a fire about a week ago. Congresswoman Nydia Velasquez says one guard reported needing to wear a fleece over a down vest overnight.
If they cannot fix it by Monday or before that, we will go to court to move these inmates out of here.
Yeah, move the inmates out of there. Move them into your living room. I bet you won't tolerate that. You're going to move the inmates to another facility and then complain about overcrowding in that facility. Look, at the end of the day, don't get it twisted. The inmates, they need heat, they need food, they need things like that to sustain them. But also understand that this is recompense for certain things that they've done to afflict their society, to afflict their community. And we cannot always tolerate the perpetuation or the propagation of victimhood. It's very popular to be a victim nowadays.
Visitation with family or lawyers is not allowed. The Bureau says inmates have hot water in showers and in the sinks in their cells. In Sunset Park, Brooklyn, Lisa Rosner, CBS 2 News.
But anyway, that's basically it on that, brothers. It is what it is. I'm sure that certain people won't like what I'm saying here. I'm sure that many cats out there have family members who have been locked up. I have family members who have been locked up, immediate family members who have been locked up. They had to deal with the consequences of their actions. They received their judgment. And when these type of things happen to people, they either make you better or they make you worse. So hopefully all the cats who are locked up here, who had to sustain dealing with the intense cold in that incarceration facility, they can say to themselves, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to deal with this nonsense anymore. I want to turn my life towards an appropriate path, towards an upright path. But anyway, peace.